Thank you, Caroline. Minister, thank you. You know, I wrote to you on a parliamentary question on the 20th of January on this issue, and you responded, but with no resolution. And I thank you for the invitation on the 11th of May too to engage with you on South East fishing. As Deputy Cullinan has highlighted, there is a significant issue here in terms of an economic issue for Dunmore East. I point out to you that fishing vessels who are accessing the fishing grounds known as the smalls, their travel time to Dunmore East would be about 5 to 6 hours, which they cannot access. And they're then forced to go to either Castletownbere, which is 17 to 18 hours travel distance, or to Howth, which is 10 to 12 hours. So there's an obvious emissions impact, an obvious economic impact, and even an obvious safety impact. So I'd ask the Minister to review this, as the other Deputy has outlined. We have fisheries protection officers, we have facilities for Department officials down there to check landings. I think this is an issue of rural regeneration and support for our fishing ports, and particularly support for Dunmore East. And I'd ask you to look at this again, please, and look favourably on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. As you already know, Ciancórla in January 2021, 5 additional ports were designated for landings by UK registered Northern Irish vessels: Greencastle, Rathmullen, Burtonport, Rossawheel and Howth. These 5 ports join Killybegs and Castletownbere, which continue to be designated for landings from vessels of any third country origin. I designated these 5 additional ports having regard for the level of activity by UK registered Northern Ireland vessels over the recent past. Any UK Northern Ireland registered boat landing into any of the 7 designated Irish ports must comply with additional documentary and procedural requirements as a result of the changes brought about due to Brexit. Designation of ports is within the state's authority, but all requirements and protocols are subject to EU and international law and must be strictly adhered to in order to gain entry to such ports. The designation of these 5 additional ports was an important decision which allows fishers and small vessels in particular to continue landing into Irish ports following Brexit. The SFPA is undertaking significant work in putting in place the arrangements necessary, including additional staff, to provide for these port designations, and I am glad that the outcome will mean that many of those fishers will now have the opportunity to access a number of additional ports. There are significant practical and cost implications for the state in the designation of EU ports for third country landings, as under EU regulations such designations represent an entry point to the European Union, following which food is free to circulate within the full EU common market. On this basis, for any ports designated, Ireland is obliged to ensure that it has in place a meaningful control presence. As outlined by the deputies at this point, Dunmore East has not been designated, but this will and is being kept under review. In 2018, there were 15 landings by UK registered Northern Ireland vessels into Dunmore East. This reduced to 9 landings in 2019 and reduced further in 2020. Over the 2 years, 2018 and 2019, the total landings amounted to 318 tonnes into Dunmore East by UK registered Northern Irish vessels, and I understand that these were landings of nephrops, mainly from the smalls. I included the designation of Howth as a designated port at the beginning of the year, and this provides a landing option for UK Northern Irish registered vessels fishing for nephrops in the large fishing grounds in the North Irish Sea, and may also provide an option for such vessels fishing in the smalls or the Labadeen. I designated Howth because, in comparison to Dunmore East, there were 26 landings by UK registered vessels in Howth in 2018, and this increased to 28 in 2019. I can assure the deputies that the current ports designated and the opening times and days for those ports were decided to allow for UK registered Northern Irish vessels to continue to land into Irish ports while ensuring that the SFPA has the capacity to continue to perform its vital control functions effectively. And it will also reassure the deputies that the designation of ports for landings does not preclude vessels from coming into ports for force majeure reasons such as safe harbour. But I do acknowledge the comments made by the 3 deputies today, and indeed the representations of my colleague Minister of State Butler as well. And this is a matter which I am keeping under review and intend to return to soon and to further assess. And I certainly take on board the views and opinions of the Waterford deputies in this regard, and will take it into view in my consideration of the matter as well. Thank you, Ciancórla.
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, Minister, I too welcome your statement, but the one point I would make to you is I think the comparison is not valid. If you look at the size of Howth and the activity in Howth in terms of comparing the landings in Howth versus the landings in Dunmore East, the relative number of landings would be, I would say, ratio-wise, quite a lot more important to Dunmore East. So I would ask you to take that on board. I think Deputy Cullinan has made very good points about the importance of trying to get commercial activities, to support them and move them on. And we have had a lot of issues in the south, and particularly in Dunmore East, over years in terms of trying to expand the fish processing that goes on there. There's an obvious benefit here, and I would point out to you again, I think we'll be in the House next week again debating the climate bill, and we'll be discussing emissions and all of that. And if you add up the emissions of boats that are being forced to go to Castledownbere and boats that are being forced to go to Howth, I think even on that metric alone, there's a fair argument for designating Dunmore East Harbour. Thank you.
It's good to see the Waterford deputies working together, and I know Minister of State Butler has spoken to me personally in this matter, as have all three of you, and on a number of fisheries issues pertinent to the county as well. So I acknowledge all of your representations in that regard, and certainly I do look forward to visiting it whenever time has reopened, as it's unfortunately not been possible given the COVID restrictions. I am doing virtual engagements with the fisheries community and with the Oireachtas members over the next 2 or 3 weeks to engage and connect with all fishers and with representatives and stakeholders in coastal areas as well, and in the marine sector, and I look forward to that. I think that the argument has been well put. The strategic importance of Dunmore East is very relevant here, and certainly when you look at the map of Ireland, it would be a strategically appropriate place for an additional designation. As I say, when I made the initial designations after Brexit, it had been done in immediate response to the Brexit situation, and I had to take into account the various pressures on the control authority at the time, and I also looked significantly at what the various landing patterns were in various ports in making my designations, and that was very much central to my the assignments and designations I made. And as I pointed out in my contribution here, the number of landings into Dunmore East of Northern Irish registered UK vessels is small, and has been small over the last 2 or 3 years, but nonetheless it is a strategically important location, and certainly in coming to review it, I'll certainly keep that very much in mind. And I think the point that's been made as well in relation to the fact that there is SFPA infrastructure and offices in place is an important consideration in this regard too. So thanks to the three deputies today, and to my ministerial colleague Butler as well, and for all four of you for bringing this to my attention and working together on behalf of the county. And I certainly will continue to engage with you in terms of looking to make progress in this matter. So thank you.
Many thanks, Minister.